Good morning. I'm going to pick up the phone and tag a few people. Well, I guess I have to wait a minute till it lets me. There we go. It's a beautiful morning. Heard that thunderstorm this morning. Did y'all hear that? It was loud. Gonna just tag a few people that have mentioned that they'd like to know when we're on. Do that. Give a few people a few minutes to get here. And we will get started. It's pretty good today because I always read it first to know what I'm getting into to share with everyone. And it's been really cool how God is meeting us exactly where we are. All righty. Good morning, everybody. Excuse my throat. Today is the 9th, I believe. And I opened up first thing. The book really flopped open kind of to step 2. So that's what we're going to look at. It's good morning, everybody. Hey, Amanda, Mia, Jill. Good to see y'all. Angie. This right here is step 2 from the Life Recovery Devotional. It says God's character. Bible reading Romans 1:21-23. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Most of us who have lived with addiction struggle with inner guilt. We may conclude that God is against us and or that we are against him. And what happens there? Why? Well, this goes on and it tells us right there. Hey, Arian. Hey, Jill. Carla. It says our fear of rejection, coupled with the fear of having to give up an addiction that helps us cope, that's really the reason, can cause us to distance ourselves from God. When this happens, our minds become confused. Sorry, I had an itch. We concoct a long list of all the things we need to do in order to come to God. This list usually describes our version of what it means to be good enough. And in our minds, it often disqualifies us from the hope of having a loving relationship. I'm sorry. It's just morning frog in my throat. It's not corona. This list usually describes our version of what it means to be good enough. Our version. And in our minds, it often disqualifies us from the hope of having a loving relationship with God. The Apostle Paul once wrote, yes, they knew God, but they wouldn't worship him as God or even give him thanks. And they began to think up foolish idea of what God was like. As a result, their minds became dark and confused. Claiming to be wise, they instead became utter fools. Wow, does that not sound like us? If we have negative feelings toward God, we need to look carefully at the reasoning behind our conclusions. We may have concluded that we don't want or can accept God. If we examine these conclusions and compare them with what the Bible really says about God, we will be happy to find that God is far more loving and accepting than we might have believed possible. The thought for today says, addictions begin when we reject what we know about God. Recovery begins when we rediscover it. Boy, and all of you guys that have ever been around and heard me sit there talking about what is addiction, there it is. Addictions begin when we reject what we know about God or when we make up our own ideas of what God is. That's when we get in trouble. That's the beginning. You know, it's not only the beginning of addiction. I would challenge you to say that that's the beginning of a relapse. That's why it's so important for us to stay connected right now. Because we have to define who God is, not who we think he is. I've got a little personal thing going on right now. My sister has been away from God for a long time. Not sure if she's one of us or not, but she's been struggling a lot. I'll hear it in her voice when I'm talking to her. And just some things she says. You guys know how that goes. And she's been telling me she's been involved in a Bible study. Well, it's been involved with a Bible study who has got some very skewed ideas of what the Bible and who God is. So if you could do me a favor and lift her up in prayer, I sure would appreciate it. Her name is Shelley. Going back to step 2 in that Life Recovery Devotional, in my memory today, it's so cool how God works this. Brooke has come across Abba's Child by Brennan Manning. Again, you guys that know me know that I love Brennan Manning. He has been a big part excuse me, a big part of my walk. Again, that's just that morning frog. And this was on Brooke had talked about how she's reading Abba's Child. And then this was on my Facebook memories, and I wanted to share with you guys. This is really good. Dear Abba, to spiritually Photoshop or not to spiritually Photoshop? That is a recurring question. I've gotten pretty good at cropping and resizing to keep an impressive facade, but the emptiness behind it is the telling thing, telling me that something about the life I'm living is off the tracks. I'm not the biggest fan of mirrors, but I realize they do serve a purpose, showing me the reality, the real me. I'm a ragamuffin, always have been, and yet you love me, the real me. Amazing. And that, I think, is why it's so important for us to stay connected, for us to be doing these things. It's my passion beyond all of us meeting and getting together. It's something that I'm so thankful for to the folks here at Christian Life Fellowship. It is that transparency. There's something about me. I can see that photoshopped person, and guess what? I can't Photoshop me. I know that. Even if I do seem to present that to you, it is that I'm hidden behind that impressive facade. We need the transparency, and we need God. Hope you guys have a great day. I also, as I was reading this, it dawned on me that's so cool is that tonight's Living Recovery at 6:30. Darlene is going to be sharing with us via appropriate social distancing and here live on the Living Recovery page. She's something was on her heart, and I'm not sure what it is, but I know that she told us to please be sure that we all have a mirror or our phones handy. And I know about the only thing I can really do with a mirror is to look at myself. That's the right thing. So I'm looking forward to that, you guys. Hope you all have a great day. And to remember that we have to keep not just God's center, but the accurate idea and thought and truth of who God is has to be the center. I want to read that closing thought on this one more time. I'm probably going to end up, I will type it in when we're done. Addictions begin when we reject what we know about God. Recovery begins when we rediscover it. One more time, I want to rephrase it just a little bit. Relapse begin when we forget what we know about God, or maybe if it's not forget, maybe it's when we allow our minds to be rewired of what the truth of God is. That's when a relapse begins, and recovery begins when we rediscover it. Love y'all. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great day. Bye.